Kayak gets my flight, hotel, and rental car right, so I can tune out travel advice that's just plain wrong.
Bro, SkyCoin. Way better than points.
Never fly during a Scorpio full moon.
Just tell the manager you'll sue. Instant room upgrade.
Stop taking bad travel advice. Start comparing hundreds of sites with Kayak and get your trip right.
Bad advice? You talking to me?
Kayak. Got that right.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Love Supernatural Japan? Take it deeper. And join us on Patreon for ad-free episodes, early access, and exclusive shows like Japan Ghost Stories and Spicy Wasabi, plus bonus videos you won't find anywhere else. More stories, more secrets, more of the strange side of Japan. Find the link in the show notes or at supernaturaljapan.com. Off the coast of Kanagawa Prefecture, just an hour or so from Tokyo, lies the small but unforgettable island of Enoshima. Connected to the mainland by a long bridge, Enoshima feels like a crossing point. Not just physically, but spiritually. As you walk across, leaving behind the noise of the city, something begins to shift. The air grows saltier, the pace slows, and ahead of you, the island rises, lush, rocky, and layered in centuries of history. Surrounded by the shimmering waters of Sagami Bay, Enoshima is a place of contradictions. It's vibrant and lively by day, filled with tourists, street food, and laughter, but beneath the surface lies something older, something quieter, something watching. This episode is somewhat of a palate cleanser after the Jigo Buken episode, which was quite heavy. This is also a listener request from Adele. Now, thanks for the great idea, Adele. Now, she reached out to me on Facebook and asked me to take a look at this topic, and it was a good choice. Now, if any of you have a listener request, you can reach out to me on social media or through the contact form at supernaturaljapan.com. Before we dive into dragons and legends, it's important to understand why Enoshima is so popular in the first place. For many visitors, Enoshima is the perfect day trip. It's easily accessible from both Tokyo and nearby Kamakura, making it a favorite escape for city dwellers. The approach to the island is iconic. Walk across the bridge with panoramic ocean views on both sides, often with a clear glimpse of Mount Fuji rising in the distance. Once on the island, visitors are greeted by lively shopping streets lined with traditional stacks and local specialties. And one of the most famous is shirasu, or whitebait, tiny fish served fresh over ice, often caught just offshore that very morning. Grilled seafood skewers, sweet treats, and souvenir shops give the area a festival-like energy. As you climb higher, the island opens up into a network of paths leading to gardens, shrines, and observation points. The Enoshima Sea Candle stands tall near the summit, offering breathtaking 360-degree views. On a clear day, you can see the coastline stretch endlessly, with Mount Fuji standing quietly on the horizon. And although I've never been personally to Enoshima, it looks absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to share loads of photos of Enoshima on Instagram at Supernatural Japan, as well as on our Facebook page. Now, there are also botanical gardens, seasonal illuminations in winter, and even romantic legends that have made Enoshima a popular destination for couples. In fact, it's considered one of the most romantic spots in the region. But, as we'll soon discover, romance isn't the only story the island tells. To understand Enoshima's deeper identity, we need to explore the role of dragons in Japanese mythology. Japanese dragons, or ryu, are not the fire-breathing monsters of Western fairy tales. Instead, they're ancient water deities, serpentine beings that dwell in the oceans, rivers, and lakes. They control rainfall, storms, and tides, and they can be both benevolent and destructive, depending on how they're treated. And these dragons are deeply influenced by Chinese mythology, but in Japan, they take a unique spiritual role. They're often tied to specific locations, places where the boundary between the natural and supernatural feels especially thin. And Enoshima is one of those places. According to legend, Enoshima was not always there. Long ago, the region was plagued by a terrifying five-headed dragon, and this creature lived in the surrounding waters, often associated with the areas near Lake Ashi, and brought destruction wherever it went. Storms ravaged the land, villages were destroyed, the people lived in constant fear. And then one day, a goddess descended from the heavens. Her name was Benzaiten, the goddess of music, beauty, knowledge, and water. As she arrived, the earth itself responded. The sea churned, the ground trembled, and suddenly, Enoshima rose from the ocean floor. The dragon, seeing Benzaiten, was immediately captivated. He fell deeply in love with her divine beauty, but Benzaiten did not accept him. Not at first. Instead, she demanded change. The dragon, once a symbol of chaos and destruction, vowed to transform, to protect the land, to serve rather than terrorize. But then, only then, did Benzaiten accept him. And their union represents something profound, the taming of nature's wild power, not through force, but through harmony and balance. Today, visitors can still walk through the spaces where the legend lives on. And one of the most important is Ryoko Myojin Shrine, dedicated to the dragon deity. Tucked along the island's pathways, it has a quieter, more mysterious atmosphere than the main tourist areas. Dragon imagery is everywhere. Coiled forms, watchful eyes, and many come here to pray for love, transformation, and protection. Then there are the Awaya Caves, carved by centuries of crashing waves along the island's edges. These caves are perhaps the most powerful location on Enoshima. Inside, the air is cool and damp. The lighting is dim, just enough to guide your steps. Statues line the walls, some illuminated by flickering candlelight. And the deeper you go, the more the outside world disappears. All you hear is the echo of the ocean and your own footsteps. And these caves have been long associated with spiritual training and are believed by some to be connected to the dragon's original lair. Now, whether it's true or not, it certainly feels like it could be. By day, Enoshima is full of life. By night, it exhales. As the last shops close and the crowds return to the mainland, a deep quiet settles over the island. The once busy paths become empty. The trees rustle in the wind. Shadows stretch longer and darker. And visitors who stay late often report a strange unease. It's not just the darkness, it's the isolation. And despite being so close to the mainland, Enoshima can feel incredibly remote at night. The narrow paths, dense vegetation, and even terrain create a sense of disorientation. Landmarks that seemed obvious during the day suddenly feel unfamiliar. And then there's the weight of the stories. When you know that the island is said to have risen from the sea in a single divine moment, when you know that a dragon once lived beneath these waters, and when you walk past shrines dedicated to forces you can't quite explain, your mind starts to wander. In Japanese belief, places like Enoshima, steeped in history, shaped by nature, and tied to powerful legends, can retain spiritual energy. Not necessarily dangerous, but present. Some say that at night, you can feel it more clearly. Enoshima is many things. It's a tourist destination, a romantic getaway, a place of incredible natural beauty. But it's also something more. It's a place where myth and reality overlap, where ancient stories still cling to the landscape, where the line between the seen and the unseen feels just a little thinner. And as you stand at the edge of the island, looking out over the dark waters of Sagami Bay, you might find yourself wondering, was the dragon ever truly gone? Or is it still there, watching, waiting, just beneath the surface? My name's Kevin O'Shea, and I want to thank you all for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to help the show grow, leave a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and a rating and a comment on Spotify, or wherever else you listen to us. It really does make a difference. Now, to see photos of Enoshima and all the cool things we talked about in this evening's episode, follow us on Instagram at Supernatural Japan, as well as our Facebook group. I want to get more folks over to the Facebook group. Links are in the show notes and over on supernaturaljapan.com. Now, I really want to share a fascinating comment on Spotify that came after last week's episode about Chico Buken. If you remember, Chico Buken are real estate listings where something bad happened. A murder, suicide, or a lonely death. And if you haven't listened yet, go to that episode and get to it right now. Get listening. Now, this comment comes from possibly Dre, maybe that's how it's pronounced, or Drea, over on Spotify. And Drea said, unknowingly, my family rented one of these houses. I ended up breaking the lease early. When I was signing the papers to break the lease, I told the real estate agent that the house was haunted. Her response was that families rent these homes to Americans because they think Americans don't notice or can't tell that they're haunted. 2 sets of friends house sat for us for a couple of months. Once we returned, they refused to ever set foot on the property again because it was so creepy. Wow. Now that's fascinating. It sounds like it was a pretty scary place. And it's also fascinating that the real estate agent said they think Americans can't notice these sorts of things. Now, unfortunately, in my 24 years of living in Asia, I found that in many cultures, they can be quite dismissive of foreigners. I've been told myself in Korea, Japan, and China, oh, you're just a foreigner. You wouldn't understand this, blah, blah, blah. Insert whatever thing it is. When, of course, we do. We absolutely do, because we have common sense. Maybe that means foreigners planning to buy or rent property in Japan have to be extra cautious. Because even though a real estate agent is legally obligated to notify the first renter or buyer after a death in the house, they may not do so if you're a foreigner. Maybe. Well, Anyway, thank you so much for that awesome comment on Spotify. And I want to hear more comments from all of you folks. Leave those reviews on Apple Podcasts. Leave those comments on Spotify. Quickly, there are two more things I want to mention to you fine folks before we end this podcast this week. I have another podcast. It's something I don't talk about here on Supernatural Japan very often, and it is called the Tales from Kevin podcast. And it is a podcast, a personal diary podcast all about me, my life as an expat living in Asia for 24 years, living in all the different countries I have. It's about me as my job, my family, being a father, a husband, all the kind of day-to-day things I go through. This podcast comes out every single weekend, the Tales from Kevin podcast, everywhere you find podcasts. If you're into that, check it out. It's not about spooky, but I do talk a lot about the kind of production of this podcast and kind of how the sausage is made, I suppose. I definitely talk a lot about that aspect of things. So check that out. Link will be in the show notes as well. And if you follow me on social media, I share it each weekend. Not very much, but I do share it on my social media, the Tales from Kevin podcast. And there is one more thing. I've made something for all of you guys because I love you so much. This was an idea, a brilliant idea from a listener named Melissa. And Melissa was visiting Tokyo and she was stopping by a few of the locations I had mentioned in the podcast, Supernatural Japan. And she said, hey, it would be a great idea if you built a Google map with all of the places you talk about in the podcast. And you know what? That was a fantastic idea. I shared that with my friend Philip Jackson, who is a frequent contributor to the podcast. He said it was a great idea. Jerem, if you're listening, Jerem in Tokyo, he also agreed that would be a great idea. He's a valued listener and supporter of the podcast. So I went ahead and I did that. I put a lot of hours into it this week. I'm going to guess maybe 15 hours or more so far this week I've been putting into this, and it's almost complete, but I'm going to share it with you guys anyway. It will always forever be a work in progress as new episodes come out. But check the show notes for the link to this Google map that includes all of the locations from episodes of Supernatural Japan that are based in different specific areas of Japan. Check it out. There's also like a blurb about the episode, link to the episode, maybe a little bit about the history of the place, plus photos of the place. So check that out. I'll share it on my social media. It will be on the at Supernatural Japan Instagram up in the bio. It'll be a link, and it'll be again in the show notes and on all of my other socials. And I'll also write a blog post about it over on supernaturaljapan.com. If you guys have ever had a supernatural experience in Japan of your own or anywhere else, or you just want to say hello, you can email me at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com or use the contact form at supernaturaljapan.com. That works really well. You can also contact me on Instagram, Facebook, or X. DM me there, contact me there, reach out and say hello. And that's it. That's it for another episode of Supernatural Japan. My name's Kevin O'Shea, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Be safe wherever you are in the world, and of course, stay spooky.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
Email signature management usually lands with IT. It starts small. A few templates, a few new employees, a few updates. But then the organization grows, meaning more employees, more devices, and more outbound emails. Exclaimer is centralized email signature management for IT. No scripts, automatic deployment, and easy integration with your existing email platforms. Visit exclaimer.com to learn more.